Hello, welcome along to today's solve of a Telegraph Cryptic Crossword. Today we're going to have a crack at Telegraph Cryptic number 31080. If you're new to Cryptic Crosswords and you're looking to learn how to solve them, then you're in the right place. And if you're a more experienced Cryptic Crossword solver looking to hone your skills or just enjoy a solve from perhaps another paper that you don't normally watch or read, then likewise, welcome along. Hopefully we'll crack on and get through the clues today. I'll explain as best I can the answers as I go through them, and we'll see how we get on. So let's start, as we always do, with the first one across, which is today one across. Policeman seizing husband's helicopter. Okay, well, as we always do when we start Cryptic Crossword solves, we look at a clue, and in about 3/4 of cases the clues are written such that there's a definition part and a wordplay part, the cryptic part. And the definition part is usually at the beginning or the end. So the first thing we need to do is to have a look and say which part of this clue is the beginning and which bit is the definition and which bit looks like wordplay. Well, policeman seizing husband sounds to me like wordplay, and so the definition part would be helicopter. So we're looking for a word for a helicopter defined from a word for policeman seizing husband. Now husband has a recognised abbreviation, which is the letter H. So if a policeman was a copper and you included the H for husband in the middle, so seized, you get chopper, and a chopper is another name for a helicopter. Okay, 5 across, gear or smack. So this is one of the crossword types that doesn't conform to the definition we just spoke about. This is what we call a double definition clue. So essentially there is no wordplay, there are just two definitions, and we're looking for a common word that means both things. So I'm looking for a word that means gear and a word that means smack. Now gear could be something like cogs of a car, that kind of gear. It could mean gear as in clothes that you wear. Smack usually means to sort of hit somebody. It could be a drug reference, but that's pretty unlikely. So a word that means gear and a word that means smack. Yeah. So this is clobber. So sort of colloquially, your clobber are your clothes, the things that you wear, your gear. And obviously if you clobber somebody, you smack them. So there we go, clobber for 5 across. 9 across, ruined ancestral city. Okay, so this is quite a short clue, which initially makes you think maybe it's another double definition, which are typically fairly short clues. But ruined is an anagram indicator. And ancestral does have 9 letters, I think. Yeah. So this is Lancaster. So ruined is the hint that tells us we're looking at an anagram. Ancestral is the 9 letters we need. And when you rearrange the letters of ancestral, you get Lancaster, which is a city in the northwest of England. Okay, 10 across. Mike leaves Lucky Charm for racecourse. So, looking at this, Mike, in this sense, usually looks like a person's name. So I think it's unlikely that this is the definition part. So we're looking for a word for a racecourse. Yeah, and where I live in the southeast of England, there are a couple of racecourses with 5 letters. One is Epsom and the other is Ascot. So how do we get that? Well, Mike is the NATO phonetic alphabet word for the letter M. A Lucky Charm is a mascot. So if you take the M, if the M leaves mascot, you're left with Ascot, which is the racecourse. Okay, 11 across. Sorrowful, having lost fine hat. Okay, so hats appear quite regularly in crosswords because there are a lot of hats, a lot of different types of hats. Sometimes they appear in part of the clue as part of the cryptic. Sometimes they appear as the answer. F is a recognised abbreviation for fine. So I think what we're looking for here is a word for sorrowful without the F for fine to give a name of a hat. But at the minute, I'm not seeing what that is, so let's go on. 12 across. Detectives overlook nearly everyone getting the sack. So everyone is all, nearly everyone would be AL, so nearly all of the word all. So I think that's likely to feature. Detectives are often in crosswords either as DI, DIs, CID sometimes. Yeah, I think this is dismissal. Dismissal. So detectives are DIs, detective inspectors. If you overlook something, you miss it. Nearly everyone, as I said, is nearly all, so it's AL, gives dismissal, which means getting the sack. Okay, 13 across. Jaguar perhaps in Guyana, distressed nation. Okay, so having a look at this, again, I'm thinking that probably the definition part is nation, so we're looking for the name of a country. Distressed is an anagram indicator, so maybe we're looking for an anagram of Guyana, which is 6 letters, with jaguar perhaps in it. Of course, a jaguar is a cat. It's also a car, both of which have 3 letters, so could be either one of those, I think. So we're looking for a word perhaps with cat and Guyana to make a name of a country. No, geography is not my strongest suit. Not seeing that one. Let's go on. You're probably shouting at the screen saying yes, but we'll get back to it. We'll come back to it in a bit. I'm sure we'll get it on the next time round. 16 across. Makes a mistake having knocked back small beer. So if you make a mistake, you err, and that appears quite regularly in cryptic crosswords. Knock back small beer suggests that maybe we're looking for a reversal here. So maybe a word for a small beer in reverse. So beer in reverse would be REEB. Ale would be ALE. And small beer. Makes looks like it's a sort of plural word. S is a recognised abbreviation for small. So I think it ends with an S. But I'm not seeing that one. So let's go on. 17 across. Church council initially suspended your nice old deacon. Yeah, this is synod. So clearly the straight part, the definition part here is church council. And what starts to throw you here is the phrase, your nice old deacon. And this is a strange set of words to put in a cryptic crossword clue, unless these particular words or these particular letters of these words are actually important. Initially is the clue here that's telling us to take the initial letters of some words. So the initial letters of suspended, your nice old deacon, are SYNOD, which gives synod, and the straight part then is the church council, which is the general synod. Okay, 18 across. Vegetable sauces introduced by a health resort. Okay, well, a health resort is a spa. So I think this is asparagus. Yeah, so asparagus is the vegetable, quite clearly. A sauce is a ragu, R-A-G-U, so sauces plural is ragus plural. So introduced by or at the beginning is the letter A, literally A, and a spa for a health resort. So a spa ragus gives asparagus, which is a vegetable. 20 across. Learning of English coin, Oscar breaks in. Okay. So E is a recognised abbreviation for English. O is the native phonetic alphabet letter represented by the word Oscar. So it looks like there's an E and an O in the word somewhere. Yeah, this is education. Oops, it is if you spell it right. Education. So education is learning. So that's the definition part. E for English, as we said, recognised abbreviation for English is E. A coin is a ducat, D-U-C-A-T. And then O for Oscar breaks in. So literally O in the middle of I-N gives the end of the word to give education. And if you're wondering about these various definitions and what constitutes a legitimate definition and what doesn't, you can't just abbreviate any word you like into its initial letter or couple of letters. The definition, the abbreviation itself, has to appear in a recognised dictionary like Chambers or Collins or Oxford. And if you're interested, I've produced a little downloadable PDF that contains about 9 pages of abbreviations commonly seen in crosswords. It's available for free. The link is in the description below. Just click the link, it should auto download to you. Also in there is a few pages on the 12 different cryptic crossword clue types. If that's of interest, I talk through the various types of crossword clues with some worked examples, try and help you understand how to spot the clues and what to look for. So that's all in there, in that downloadable PDF. Just click the link and it should come down. Okay, with that being said, let's move on. 23 across. Show disapproval before it's over for the whole orchestra. Yeah, so this is tutti. So this is a musical notation. Musical notations do appear quite frequently in cryptic crosswords, whether it's abbreviations like P for piano, or which means softly in musical notation. You get other words like allegro and so on, or fortissimo with F. So musical terms do appear quite frequently, and I think tutti is the musical expression that means whole orchestra. And how do we derive that? Well, to show disapproval is to tut, T-U-T, before it's over. So literally the word it turned over, so T-I, T-I, gives tutti, which is the whole orchestra. Okay, saw American teen oddly getting into D&D. Okay, so oddly, the word oddly here appears to tell us to take the alternate letters, the odd letters of a word. So are we looking for the odd letters of teen, which would be T-E or E-N? A is an abbreviation for American. Yeah, this is dated. So if you saw somebody in the sense of saw them in a relationship, you would have dated them. So you go on a date with them. So having seen them, you dated them. A is the recognised abbreviation for American. Teen oddly is T-E, the first and third letters, and then literally going into D and D. So A, T-E in D&D gives dated, which is saw. Too dense to grasp page's pointy stick. So again, we've got another standard abbreviation here. P for page is a common abbreviation. Yeah, so I think we're looking for a pointy stick, which is a toothpick. So two is two, T-O-O. Dense is thick, T-H-I-C-K. Grasping P for page gives toothpick, which is a pointy stick. Standard dirty look in reception room. Okay, so there are a couple of definitions of standard. So yeah, so one of the standard could be a flag, so some sort of flag or pennant, but a standard is also par. In golf term, for example, the standard number of strokes expected for a hole is the par of the golf hole, and par generally means standard or the average or the typical. I'm not sure about this, but I think lower, if you pronounce it that way, is a dirty look of some sort. Certainly glower I thought was, but lower I presume also means some sort of dirty look, because a parlour is a reception room. So I think that's right. Certainly standard is par. I think lower is to look menacingly or unfriendly or unkindly at. And then reception room, parlour, definitely the case. Okay, in a fury, endlessly deny tragedy. Okay. Endlessly enraged? Yeah, enraged, I think. So the answer there is enraged. So if you're in a fury, you are enraged. And how I got this was looking at endlessly deny. If we take the n's away from deny, we get the e and the n. So I saw n something, and then I thought, okay, enraged is the answer. How do we get rage from tragedy? Well, actually, we remove the end letters of tragedy as well. So endlessly deny gives en, endlessly tragedy gives raged, enraged in a fury. Okay, that's not too bad. Good selection of cross clues there. That'll help us with the down clues. Before we get started on the downs, just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying the video today, please consider giving the video a like. It really helps the algorithm to point people in the right direction for new channels and small channels like this, so it would be much appreciated. And if you are enjoying it and you want to be notified of more videos from me as I publish them every week, then please consider subscribing to the channel as well. That would be great. We'd be lovely to have you along. And with that said, let's crack on. Shakespearean character in Cabal going rogue. Well, going rogue is an anagram indicator. In Cabal has 7 letters, and we've got the C and the L already, which certainly looks like that's maybe where we need to look. I don't know this. I've in the back of my mind something from school days. Caliban as a Shakespearean character. I'm not sure which way round it is, I have to say, but I think it's either Caliban or Calibin, I think. So I'll put the checking letters in here, and we'll have a look at those when we come back to do the across clues again in a minute and see if that's right. Let's go on anyway. We'll come back to that one in a bit. Person in possession of narcotic drug shaving head. Yeah, so if you're again, the checking letters here do help. If you're in possession of something, you are the owner. So how do we get them from narcotic drug shaving head? Well, a narcotic drugs that some people take are downers. So a downer would be a drug. And then if you shave the head, literally if you take the first letter off of downer, you're left with owner. So I think that is owner. Okay, very drunk with a coat on, question mark. The question mark appears in some cryptics clues. I think this is the only one today, but what it usually refers to in a cryptic clue here is that perhaps it's a bit of a play on words, or perhaps a funny joke, or that perhaps the clue is sort of stretching the definitions or stretching the syntax a little bit. So Very drunk with a coat on. Well, very drunk is plastered. Yeah, I think that's right. So a coat on, yeah, okay, a coat of plaster. It's more commonly referred to a coat of paint. Do you have coats of plaster? I mean, you put plaster on once and that's it, I thought. Anyway, so that's possibly why the question mark is there, that the definition is a little bit tongue-in-cheek. So very drunk, plastered, with a coat on, a coat of plaster. Okay, judged sweetheart taking temperature the wrong way. So yeah, so this is rated. So rated means judged. I think that's fairly clear. Sweetheart is often just the letter E, because the heart of the word sweet is E. But in this case, sweetheart is actually dear, D-E-A-R, D-E-A-R. Taking temperature, and T is a recognised abbreviation for temperature. It's in my little PDF if you're interested. So if you put T into a word for sweetheart the wrong way, so this is the reversal indicator to say write the answer backwards. So you have dear, D-E-A-R, taking T in the middle, gives rated when read from the top, which means judged. Okay, scrap hard ordered cheat. Yeah, so looking at the checking letters, and ordered, which is clearly an anagram indicator of scrap hard, which has 9 letters. So we're looking for a word for a cheat made up of the letters from scrap hard. And I think this is card sharp. So a card sharp is a cheat. Somebody who cheats at cards. Card sharp made up of the letters of scrap hard. African native agreed on a ratio in maths. Okay, so this would be quite tricky if you didn't, again, have the checking letters. So this is a Okapi. So an African native, you'd often read this and think more about a person from an African country, a Nigerian or a Kenyan or Zimbabwean or so on. But in this case, it refers to an African animal that's native. And agreed on, or agreed, is okay. On A, and pi is a ratio in mathematics, the ratio of the circumference to the diameter, or radius. Can't remember. Anyway, one of those two. It's a ratio in maths anyway. So African native, Okapi. Good. 7 down. Supports political factions court motion. Well, if you support somebody, you back them. So supports is backs. Political faction, wing. Yeah, I think that's wing. So a political faction is a wing, supports is backs, and backswing is what you might see perhaps on a tennis court or a squash court. It's that kind of court motion, not a court motion as in a magistrate's court. Okay, let's have a look. 8 down. Scares, starlet, upset. Yeah, so this is fairly straightforward, I think. I think this is rattles. Oops, it is if you put the E in the right place. Rattles. So, upset here is the anagram indicator. So we need to anagramize the word starlet. And if you do that, you get rattles, which means scares. Okay, 14 down. Leader caught on channel with old Republican. Okay, so we've got some more standard abbreviations here. O is the standard, a recognised abbreviation for old. R is a recognised abbreviation for Republican. And we do have the Republican here, so this must be OR. So we're looking for a not director, but some sort of leader. So what about, yeah, so C is a recognised abbreviation for court. That's in cricket parlance, and many abbreviations in the crosswords are cricket related. C for court, B for bold, W for wide, and so on. Caught on, so on, and a channel is a duct. So C on duct with OR gives conductor, which is a leader. 15 down. Happy I set up list for film. So I could be just I itself, which we've got. Set up could be the word set in reverse, but we've got an R at the bottom. There's no other place for that. Don't know. Let's go on. 16. What transports patient from Chester extremely resistant to change? Yeah, I mean, if you looking at the checking letters here, this has to be stretcher. Now we can just double check how we get that from the clue. And that's a perfectly acceptable way of solving a crossword clue, cryptic crossword clue. Sometimes just from the definition part, or perhaps with checking letters, you can spot the answer, and then you go back and verify it by checking the cryptic, the wordplay. And sometimes you work the other way and you use the wordplay constructively to form a word, which you then double check is the definition. So in this case, we have got the letters of Chester and the extreme letters of resistant, which is R and T. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes. So R and T plus the letters of Chester, subject to change. So to change is clearly an anagram indicator. So if you rearrange the letters of Chester, RT, you get something that transports a patient, which is a stretcher. 17 down. Occasionally, supreme Northern Irish politicians gain momentum. Yeah, okay, again with the letters we've got, this is obviously speed up. So, occasionally supreme. So this is telling us to take the occasional or alternate letters of supreme. We had that in an earlier clue, taking odd letters. Can't find it now, but there was a clue earlier on where we took odd letters. Here it's occasional letters, which is a similar syntax. So the alternate letters of supreme are S, P, E, E, and then a Northern Irish political group is the DUP, the Democratic Unionist Party, a big party in Northern Ireland. So DUP. So SPEE DUP gives speed up, which is to gain momentum. 19 down. Avoid silence annoyed. Avoided silence annoyed. Okay. Well, it looks like it's going to end ED either way. It's definitely a past tense word, either avoided or annoyed. And we have the D here, so that's going to be an E, I'm pretty sure. So how do we make the answer? Well, I think, yeah, so silence does occasionally appear in crosswords. Usually it refers to sh, sh, as in be quiet, silence. So sh, and then a word for annoyed, which we can put in here quite easily as irked. If you are irked, you are annoyed. And then sh with irked gives shirked, which is avoided. Okay, briefly check oxygen's sound. Well, that looks like it has to be audio. How do we get that? Briefly check oxygen's sound. So sound is obviously the definition part, the straight part, and audio is the answer. O is a recognised abbreviation for oxygen. It's the chemical symbol for oxygen. Again, chemical symbols come up a lot in crosswords. Cu for copper and Sn for tin and gold and silver particularly. Again, those definitions are all in my downloadable if you're interested. So we've got the O for oxygen. A check is an audit, A-U-D-I-T. Briefly tells us just to drop the last letter. So if we drop the last letter of audit, we get audi, and O gives audio, which is sound. Okay, European shortly heads north to find something a hangman needs. Yeah, with those letters again, that has to be noose. So how do we find that? Well, European, E is a recognised abbreviation for European, so that's the E. Shortly heads north, so shortly is soon. Soon heading north, clearly soon read from the bottom to the top. Gives noose, which is something the hangman needs. Okay. Lean on grand item. Yeah, this is thing. So lean is thin, T-H-I-N, lean, thin, G for grand, again another standard abbreviation. Thin, G gives thing, which is an item. Okay, almost done. 13 across. Jaguar, this is our Jaguar in Guyana. Yeah, so Jaguar looks like it's the car, and that is Nicaragua. Nicaragua, great. I'm sure plenty of you got that when I went through it the first time. Well done if you did. Yeah, Nicaragua, anagram of Guyana and car for Jaguar gives Nicaragua. What's this one then? Happy. I set up list for film. Gladiator. Gladiator's a film. If you're happy, you're glad. I is I, and then yeah, rota. R-O-T-A is a rota, which is a list set up, so written in the reverse direction. Gives Gladiator, which was a film. All right, 3 left. Makes a mistake, having knocked back small beer. Yep, this is slips. So slips is make a mistake. S for small. A beer is a pils. So sometimes we have ale, and as I said before, ale, maybe lager sometimes, but in this case, this particular type of beer is a pils, P-I-L-S. So when you put that back with S for small, you get slips. Right, what was this one? Sorrowful, having lost fine hat. I guess that's beret. Yeah, so sorrowful is bereft. And you lose the F for fine, leaves you beret, which is a hat. Okay, so now we've got a bit of a problem, because whatever I put here, I'm not going to be able to verify that it's the right answer. So I am going to make a guess, a bit of a guess, and I'll be honest, it is a bit of a guess. If it's wrong, I'll come back and tell you. And if I get it right, after I check it afterwards, then I'll just leave it here as it is. And I am going to put Caliban as my answer. And there we go. So that's today's puzzle done in just about half an hour. Not too bad. Some nice clues there. 1 or 2 tricky ones, including the Shakespearean character, which I'm going to go away now and have a look at just to make sure I've got the right answer. Hope you enjoyed that. It's good to have you along. Just a quick reminder again, if you did enjoy the video today, please consider giving a thumbs up. It does really help the algorithm point me in the right direction. And if my downloadables are of any use to you, link in the description, just click that. It should auto download. If it doesn't, put a note in the comments and I'll sort it out for you. And with all that being said, I think we'll stop there. So have a good day, the rest of the day, wherever it is you're up to, and hopefully see you again soon. Thanks very much. Bye.